What's up, everybody? Professional Wrestler Chris Wilde back with another video on Eagles news now as we inch closer to the 2020 season finally getting underway. And I've told you guys on all my videos the past couple weeks that one of the things that I love to see is these guys putting in work, these players on this Eagle team putting in work, and I've really started to see a mojo on this team, and I'm gonna say it, I've started to see a chemistry on this team, even though they haven't even all been together physically, that is, that's reminiscent of 2017. I know it's very, very early to say that, but last week, Fletcher Cox had the entire defensive line come down to his ranch in Texas. For those of you that don't know, Texas started to be more lenient towards their social distancing laws. So he was able to have those guys there at his Shady Trail Ranch, just getting everybody together. Now, look, haven't had a full tally on who was all there. I do know Javon Hargrave, the newest addition to that Eagles defensive line through free agency, was not there, which kind of sucks because he's going to be such a huge part of their success, I believe, this year. And it would have been nice to get a jump start on knowing all the guys. However, man, this group of guys that they put together, I really believe that this defensive line has an absolute chance to eat, and I think they do too. Fletcher Cox finally healthy. We all know going into last season, he kind of dealt with what Brandon Graham dealt with the season before, with not really being fully healthy towards the end. I mean, you could tell that by watching him play from the beginning of the season to the end of the season. Almost two different players. But this guy is the franchise on the defense. With Malcolm Jenkins leaving, I believe he's going to take a bigger role as a leader. He kind of he showed it by having these guys work out. But I want to talk about some of the pieces on this defensive line and why I think that they could be possibly. I know I'm going to get this this homer look to me, and I know some of you are going to be rolling your eyes, but I believe that the Eagles defensive line could be the best in the NFL. I really believe that. Let's start with the starters. You've got Brandon Graham, who has just done nothing but improve throughout the past 5 years. This guy is the personality of the defense, I believe, and has been a leader, and he's got a motor that just doesn't stop. On the other side, you got Derek Barnett, who is a question mark, and this is the biggest season of Derek Barnett's career. It's do or die for him this year with a guy like Josh Sweat nipping at his heels, and we talked about him a couple of shows ago where I believe he's set to have a breakout year. But Derek Barnett, again, he's a first-round pick, 14th pick in 2017. Big piece of that Super Bowl win, too. But he's going to have to do it this year. He's going to have to stay healthy, and he's going to have to show why in college he broke all of Reggie White's records. So you got him. And then on the interior, I mean, this is where their strength is. Like we talked about Fletcher Cox and how much of a beast he is, and he's one of the best in the league at what he does. Right next to him, you're going to have Javon Hargrave, who is as underrated as it gets at defensive tackle. I believe, watching some of his highlights in his film from Pittsburgh, I mean, this guy was getting double-teamed a lot, causing a lot of things to happen. And adding a lot of pressure. You could tell those offensive linemen just hated going up against him. He's going to be a major piece there. And then a guy that's kind of forgotten because he got injured really, really early with the other Jackson, Deshaun Jackson almost, is Malik Jackson. Now, this guy was an absolute beast a couple years ago. And I know, yeah, it was a couple years ago and now is now. But looking at some of the little workouts that he's been posting, he looks like he's ready to go again and prove why he is also really good at what he does. I mean, who do you double there? Who do you, when you've got these guys lining up, and we all know the Eagles like to rotate their defensive linemen and ends in and out so they stay fresh, but you really can't double Fletcher Cox anymore because you're freeing up Javon Hargrave, or if Malik Jackson, and what I believe is he's going to have a comeback type year. You can't. Who do you double? And as we all know, the Eagles have struggled with the secondary. I believe the secondary is going to be a lot better. We've talked about that. But what's going to really help this secondary is this defensive line finally being able to get pressure, which I do believe they will. And there are some dark horses on this team in backup roles, I believe. Last year, if you go way back to last year when the Eagles traded for Gennard Avery, they gave the Bengals a 4th-round pick in 2021. Which isn't a shabby pick, to to be honest. I mean, it's not like they gave him a 6th or a 7th. This is a 4th round pick for a guy who, this will be his 2nd year in this defense. This guy's got a motor on him as well, and I was really impressed with some of the plays that I saw him get into when he was able to get on the field. I think that there will be opportunities for him to shine, and I really hope that he does. If not, it's a waste of a 4th round pick. We're also looking at guys returning like Hassan Ridgeway, Anthony Rush. These are guys that had, and Hassan Ridgeway got hurt last year, but these are guys that had to play meaningful snaps towards the end of the year, in that basically at the end of the year they were in the playoffs for 4 weeks before the playoffs began. And so these guys definitely had to play some important games. The one real big question mark for me is Sharif Miller. He was just not able to see the field at all last year, with the Eagles having a shitload of injuries at that defensive tackle position. Like I said, when you got Anthony Rush starting for you, nothing against Anthony Rush, but he's just on a starter. That kind of says something there. And Sharif Miller, who was a draft pick, I don't know if he just didn't pick up the defense as well. But, he's definitely going to have to show something during the offseason to make this team, I believe. Casey Toohill is probably a practice squad player that they got in the draft this year. But he'll be fighting for a spot. And then a really interesting guy, and he's so interesting that I almost thought about doing a single video about him, but it would just be hard because there's not a lot of information about him. Is Quan Williams, defensive tackle out of Michigan State. This was a guy that everybody looked at as a day 3 guy, maybe 6th round. He went undrafted. I've heard a lot of really good things about this guy, how the Eagles possibly could have got another steal. And he could be one of those surprise dudes that makes the team over a guy like Anthony Rush or Sharif Miller. I mean, you look at his stats in Michigan State, he probably should have left his junior year. He probably would have been drafted, definitely, if he got out his junior year. He won the Ironman Award 3 years running. Basically what that is, an award for strength and conditioning. Started 41 games for Michigan State. Very versatile. You can put him anywhere on that defensive line. The guy does not quit on plays at all. I use that word motor. He's definitely got one. But his biggest weakness is if he doesn't win quickly, he's probably not going to. And what I mean by that is if he doesn't get ahead of the offensive lineman, he's probably not going to. He's probably not going to be much of a factor there. But he's definitely a guy that I think that you'll see like at the end of plays. Like, oh, wow, Quan Williams was in on that. You know what I mean? That kind of guy. So the Eagles have a lot of depth, a lot of great depth here with these guys that I mentioned. Like I said, we've talked about Josh Sweat before. And just this starting 4 guys, man, is going to be something to reckon with. Like I said, I mean, on what other defensive line in the NFL? And again, I'm not a guy that studies a lot of other teams, but I mean, to be able to switch out a Javon Hargrave with a Malik Jackson, or a Fletcher Cox with a Malik Jackson or a Javon Hargrave, bringing in Sweat, and I still believe, and I've said this in the Sweat video, that the Eagles are going to make another move at defensive end. I think they're going to bring in a veteran, whether that be a Jadeveon Clowney, which I really doubt, or an Everson Griffin that I would absolutely love to play that Chris Long type role. I think it's going to happen, but if it doesn't, I think these guys are in good shape. Especially, and you can say this about any position in football or any team in football, especially if these guys are actually able to stay healthy. And the Eagles have had horrible health issues for 3 years straight. Something's got to give. Something's got to give, and could this be the year that they actually stay healthy? I hope so. But it's a great sign to see these guys working out together and getting that chemistry going, and they are ready. And like I said, the mojo is there. I believe that this unit is going to play such a big part in the Eagles' success this year, guys. So I'm not going to ramble on it anymore. I'm really excited about the Eagles' defensive line, excited about how the season is starting, and finally some positivity going in 2020 as sports seems to be coming back with the NBA starting officially July 31st. That's all for right now, guys. Thanks for watching. As always, if you haven't subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. Inching closer, crawling closer to 1,000 subscriptions. That's important to me because I'm able to go live with you guys and talk to you guys live instead of in the comments, which is going to be amazing eventually when it happens. Go Birds, and I'll see you guys later. 3, 8, 3.
E-A-G-L-E-S, Eagles! E-A-G-L-E-S, Eagles!
I need Eagle Nation to stand